Paul. That's right.
The update is sponsored by the Home Depot, where low prices are just the beginning.
Thanks for joining us as we continue to track the progress of Hurricane Linda. Latest advisory hot off the presses from the National Hurricane Center as of 8 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Good news to report. The storm continues to lose some of its punch. Its top winds are now down to 145 miles an hour. The central pressure has come up by about 5 millibars, and a higher central pressure means a weaker storm usually. It's centered about 500 miles west-southwest of Cabo San Lucas, and here is another important point that is good news. Look at the direction of movement, west-northwest. Earlier, the storm had been tracking more north, but now it is starting to slide more westward, and that is certainly good news because that is taking it back out into open water, and it isn't paralleling the coast as much. Still, it is close enough to the coast that we have coastal flood warnings up here for about the southern half of the Baja California Peninsula, and also coming over along the Mexican mainland as well as the swells from the storm batter up against the shoreline. But you can definitely see that the storm is drifting further and further off to the west here, and this is a visible satellite loop. That's why it got dark. So let's get out of this and go to the infrared. Looks at the heat of the clouds. The colder the cloud top, the higher the cloud. And so when you're looking at this and you see these reds and these oranges, what we're doing is we're coloring in where the clouds are very cold. So looking down from space, we're seeing cold cloud tops, high clouds, big thunderstorms. You can see the storm isn't nearly as symmetric here. The eastern quarter here is pretty much devoid of deep convection, and that is another sign that the storm is weakening a little bit. Now, we are watching it travel here a little bit to the west-northwest. Now, in some respects, it's almost a mixed blessing. As it was traveling northward, it was encountering cooler water, and since warm water is the moisture source, it's the heat source, it's the energy source for these storms, the cooler the water, the weaker the storm tends to become. However, as it travels westward, it tends to remain over slightly warmer water. So the National Hurricane Center is now saying that the storm will weaken a little less quickly than previously, but hey, if it's out over open ocean, it's not going to affect anybody. But will it stay out over open ocean? Well, there's the rub. See this trough digging in? The latest computer models are indicating this trough is going to come ashore without picking up Linda and bringing it onshore. However, the models have a fair dispersion of results. The different models are giving different results here, so we'll still have to watch the situation very carefully. And it's always possible that a second trough digging down later on could pick up the moisture that's left over after Linda spins itself out over the eastern Pacific and then bring that ashore. So still plenty of possibilities here, and I urge you to stay tuned to the Weather Channel as further information comes in, and we'll bring you up to date as the situation continues to develop. Let's shift away from Linda now to its companion tropical depression here in the eastern Pacific, Tropical Depression 15E. Top winds 35 miles an hour, moving west at about 6 miles an hour. Not a very powerful storm at all, not very organized, only developing very slowly, if anything, and still far from any land masses, so not really a problem. Western Pacific has two storms. Typhoon Oliva here expected to affect western Japan, southern Japan. Also, the Tropical Storm David forecast to become Typhoon David before too long. Tropical Storm Erika still crossing the Atlantic here in the eastern sections of the Atlantic. It's heading toward the Azores. Top winds about 50 miles an hour. Is there anything else to be worried about?